Mummies are the preserved remains of humans or animals, typically created through a process of deliberate preservation, such as through embalming. The ancient Egyptians were particularly skilled at creating mummies, which played an important role in their religious beliefs about the afterlife. The process of mummification in ancient Egypt involved several steps, including washing the body, removing the internal organs, and packing the body with natron, a type of salt that helped to dry out the flesh. The body was then wrapped in linen bandages and placed in a coffin, which was often decorated with hieroglyphics and other symbols. Mummies were typically buried in tombs, which were often filled with offerings such as food, drink, and other items that the deceased might need in the afterlife. Some tombs, such as those in the Valley of the Kings, were particularly elaborate, with multiple chambers and intricate decorations. Today, mummies remain a fascinating and important part of ancient. Lady Ray was an ancient Egyptian noblewoman who lived during the 18th dynasty of the New Kingdom period, around 1550 to 1290 to be. In 1881, her well-preserved mummy was discovered in a tomb in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt by the French Egyptologist Gaston Maspero. Lady Ray was identified by the inscriptions on her sarcophagus, which indicated that she was a nursemaid to Queen Omosi Nefertari, the wife of Pharaoh Omosi I. The inscriptions also provided information about Lady Ray's family, including her father's name, her husband's name, and the fact that she had a daughter named Meridaman. The mummy of Lady Ray was wrapped in linen bandages and adorned with jewelry, including a necklace and earrings. Her face was covered with a gilded mask, and a wig was placed on her head. Her body was well preserved due to the embalming techniques used by the ancient Egyptians, which involved removing the internal organs and preserving the body with natron, a type of salt. The discovery of Lady Ray's mummy provided valuable information about the burial practices and beliefs of the ancient Egyptians. Ramses to mummy. Ramesses I, also known as Ramesses the Great, was the third pharaoh of the 19th dynasty of Egypt, who ruled from 1279 to 1213 B. He is widely considered one of the most powerful and successful pharaohs in Egyptian history. Ramesses' mummy was discovered in 1881 in the Deir el-Bahari cache, located near the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, Egypt. The mummy was wrapped in linen and in a state of decay, but was still well preserved. In the early 1970s, the mummy was transported to the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, where it underwent extensive restoration. In March 2021, Egyptian authorities announced the discovery of a second mummy believed to belong to Ramesses I. The mummy was found in the Royal Mummies Hall at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, where it had been stored with other royal mummies for over a century. The mummy had been placed in a wooden coffin and buried with gold ornaments and funerary texts, indicating that it was a member of the royal family. After extensive analysis, including court scans and DNA testing, experts confirmed that the mummy was indeed Ramesses I's son, Prince Pentawere, who was believed to have committed suicide after being accused. The discovery of the second mummy has provided valuable insights into the life and lineage of Ramesses I and his family, as well as shedding light on the practices of ancient Egyptian burial and funerary rites. Tutankhamun mummy. Tutankhamun, also known as King Tut, was an Egyptian pharaoh who ruled from around 1330 B to 1323 B. He became pharaoh at a young age and died at the age of 18 or 19, and his tomb was discovered nearly intact in the Valley of the Kings in 1922 by British archaeologist Howard Carter. The discovery of the tomb was significant because it provided a wealth of information about ancient Egyptian culture and burial practices. The tomb contained over 5,000 artifacts, including King Tut's mummified remains, gold jewelry, chariots, and other treasures. Tutankhamun's mummy was found in a wooden coffin within a series of four-nested coffins, with the innermost coffin being made of solid gold. The mummy itself was wrapped in linen bandages and adorned with a golden mask that covered the face. Studies of Tutankhamun's mummy have revealed that he was around 5 feet 6 inches tall and had a slight overbite. The cause of his death is still debated, but recent research suggests that he may have died from complications related to a broken leg. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb and mummy has had a significant impact on our understanding of ancient Egyptian history and culture. It has also sparked public interest and fascination with ancient Egypt and its treasures. Crocodile mummies. Crocodile mummies are the preserved remains of crocodiles that were mummified in ancient Egypt. These mummies were made by the ancient Egyptians as a form of religious worship and as offerings to the gods. In ancient Egypt, crocodiles were regarded as sacred animals and were associated with the god Sobek, who was considered the god of the Nile and the god of fertility. The ancient Egyptians believed that crocodiles were the guardians of the Nile and that they could control the river's flow. The process of mummification of crocodiles was similar to that of humans. First, the internal organs were removed, and the body was packed with nacre, a type of salt. Then the body was wrapped in linen bandages and coated with resin to protect it from decay. Crocodile mummies have been found in large numbers in Egypt, particularly in the Temple of Komombo, where they were discovered in underground tombs. Many of these mummies were used as offerings to the gods in religious ceremonies, while others were sold to pilgrims who visited the temples. Crocodile mummies were also believed to have healing powers. It was thought that if a person touched a crocodile mummy, they would be cured of any ailments they were suffering from. As a result, many crocodile mummies were taken from their tombs and used for commercial purposes. Today, crocodile mummies are valuable artifacts that offer a glimpse into the religious practices and beliefs of ancient Egypt. They can be found in museums and private collections around the world, where they continue to fascinate and intrigue visitors with their mysterious past. Mud mummies are a type of ancient Egyptian mummy that were created by a process called natural mummification. Natural mummification occurs when a body is buried in a dry, sandy environment that naturally absorbs moisture from the body, thus preventing decomposition. This process was commonly used in ancient Egypt, especially for the burial of poor individuals who could not afford the more elaborate embalming procedures. The mud mummies of Egypt were typically buried in shallow graves in the desert, with their bodies covered in a layer of mud. This mud layer helped to further protect the body from the elements and also acted as a natural adhesive to keep the body's limbs in place. The mummies were often wrapped in linen or reeds, but unlike other types of mummies, they were not coated in resin. While mud mummies are not as well preserved as other types of Egyptian mummies, they still provide valuable insights into ancient Egyptian burial practices and social hierarchies. Many mud mummies have been found in communal burial pits, indicating that they were likely members of the lower classes. However, some mud mummies have been found with more elaborate burial goods, suggesting that they may have been members of a higher social class. One of the most famous mud mummies is that of the Jebel Maan, also known as Ginger. This mummy was discovered in 1896 and dates back to around 3400 BC. The Jebel Man is notable for his well-preserved ginger-colored hair, which is one of the oldest examples of hair to have been found in Egypt. Overall, mud mummies provide a fascinating glimpse into the lives and deaths of ancient Egyptians, and continue to be an important area of study for archaeologists and historians. Mummy with Tata. In 2014, a team of archaeologists from the French Institute for Oriental Archaeology discovered the mummified remains of a woman who lived in Egypt around 3,000 years ago. The mummy was found in the Deir el-Medina necropolis, near the city of Luxor. What makes this discovery unique is that the woman's skin was covered in tattoos, which is very rare for Egyptian mummies. The tattoos were located on her arms, shoulders, neck, and back, and were mostly made up of abstract designs and patterns. There were also some tattooed symbols that are thought to have had religious or magical significance. The woman was likely a priestess or a singer in a temple, as she was buried with musical instruments and other objects commonly associated with those professions. It's also possible that she was a member of the community of craftsmen who built the tombs of the pharaohs in the Valley of the Kings. The tattoos themselves were created using a needle and a soot-based pigment, and were likely done by a skilled artist. They may have been intended to protect the woman's body in the afterlife, or to help her gain the favor of the gods. The discovery of this tattooed mummy provides valuable insights into the lives and beliefs of ancient Egyptians, and helps us to better understand the cultural and artistic practices of this fascinating civilization.